My parents cancelled my 18th birthday because my brother threw a tantrum, so I made other plans they'll never forget. I turned 18 3 weeks ago and I still haven't blown out a single candle. My name's Allison, and if you told me a year ago that my own parents would cancel my birthday just to keep my brother from throwing a tantrum, I would have laughed and said, no way. That's too obvious even for them. But here we are. My family has always revolved around my younger brother Tyler. He's 16. And to put it nicely, he thinks the world exists solely for his entertainment. If he gets a bad grade, Mom emails the teacher to argue it. If he gets in trouble at school, Dad lectures the principal about understanding Tyler's special needs. And if Tyler so much as frowns, the entire household goes silent, waiting to figure out how to make him happy again. Meanwhile, I've been the easy kid. I get good grades, stay out of trouble, make my own meals, do my laundry. You'd think that would earn me a little respect. Instead, it just makes me invisible. When my birthday was coming up, I didn't even ask for much. Just a small dinner with my grandparents and a cake. I saved up for my own gift, a used Canon camera I found on Facebook Marketplace. For once, I wanted to feel like my day mattered, like I wasn't just the background character in Tyler's world. Mom nodded distractedly when I told her my plans, and Dad muttered something about checking his schedule. That was enough for me. I figured they were on board. I even spent 2 hours cleaning the house so it would look nice when everyone came over. The day before my birthday, Tyler had a meltdown over the dumbest thing imaginable. Dad wouldn't let him borrow the Honda to go to some party in downtown Portland. He slammed doors, threw his Jordans down the hallway, and started yelling about how no one cares about him and how Allison always gets whatever she wants. I just sat in my room, AirPods in, trying to stay out of it, but I could still hear every word. My chest felt tight. Tyler has always had this way of making me feel guilty for existing. Eventually, I heard Mom knock on my door and say, Allison, we need to talk. She sat on the edge of my bed with that look, the one that means she's about to say something that benefits Tyler at my expense. Honey, she said in that soft tone she uses when she's trying to act reasonable. We're going to have to postpone your birthday dinner. Tyler is really upset right now and we don't want to trigger him with a big celebration tomorrow. I just stared at her. Postpone. It's my 18th birthday. You only turn 18 once. Her smile thinned. I know, but we can celebrate next weekend when things calm down. It'll be better for everyone. Better for everyone. Translation, better for Tyler. My fists curled against my bedsheets. Dad poked his head into my room to add, just let this go, Allison. Be the mature one here. The mature one. The phrase burned worse than anything else they'd said. I nodded slowly, but inside I felt something shift. For years, I'd been swallowing my frustration, convincing myself it wasn't worth making a scene. But this was the line. They had just told me point blank that my birthday was less important than keeping Tyler from throwing a fit. The next morning, my grandparents called to wish me happy birthday. When I told them dinner was postponed, there was a long pause before Grandpa said, postponed. For what? I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just felt this cold, quiet anger settle in my chest, like a storm forming far off in the distance. That was the moment I knew something had to change. The day after my cancelled birthday felt strangely quiet, like the house itself knew something was off. I went through the motions, made breakfast, got ready for school, but there was this dull heaviness in my chest that wouldn't go away. Mom cheerfully acted like nothing had happened, and Tyler came downstairs late, yawning and smirking like he just won some great battle. He ruffled my hair as he passed me, which he knows I hate, and said, cheer up, Allison. It's just a birthday. Just a birthday. The word stuck to me like wet clothes. That night, I overheard Mom and Dad talking in the kitchen while I was upstairs doing homework. They were praising Tyler for calming down after his tantrum, like he'd just performed some heroic feat. Then Mom said, I think it's good we delayed Allison's party. It shows Tyler we're willing to compromise. Compromise? That's what they called erasing my 18th birthday. Over the next week, little things kept piling up, each one scraping against me like sandpaper. Tyler decided he wanted to host a study session at the house with his friends, which of course meant loud Call of Duty and Domino's pizza more than any actual studying. Mom asked me to make myself scarce so I wouldn't distract them. I ended up eating a peanut butter sandwich in my room with headphones on, even though I had a chemistry test the next day and really wanted to use the dining table to spread out my notes. Then there was the Target incident. Mom took me along to help her carry things, and when Tyler texted her asking for a specific energy drink, some overpriced Monster variant, she sent me running back down 3 aisles to grab it. When I came back, slightly out of breath, she didn't even thank me. Just said, "You should be more considerate, Allison. Tyler had a rough week." I wanted to shout, so did I. But instead, I bit my tongue until I could taste copper. Things escalated 2 days later when I finally worked up the courage to ask about rescheduling my birthday dinner. I caught Mom while she was folding laundry and said as casually as I could, "So, when are we doing my birthday thing? I'd like to invite Grandma and Grandpa." She didn't even look up. "Oh, honey, this weekend's no good. Tyler's got a soccer tournament and we're taking him to Olive Garden afterward to celebrate." "Okay, what about next weekend?" "We'll see," she said, and then changed the subject like we were discussing the weather. I walked back to my room in a fog. It was like someone had quietly erased my birthday from the calendar, like it never existed. That night at dinner, Tyler complained that he needed new cleats for his upcoming tournament. Dad immediately said, "We'll make it work," even though we'd just talked about how money was tight. I glanced at the corner of the fridge where the grocery budget list hung, and I couldn't stop myself from asking, "Didn't we say no extras this month?" Dad shot me a look sharp enough to cut glass. "Don't be selfish, Allison. Your brother's future depends on this tournament. These things are an investment." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because of how absurd it sounded. Tyler's future involved playing JV soccer and quitting half his hobbies whenever they got hard. But I kept my mouth shut and finished my dinner in silence, my appetite gone. A few days later, I came home from school to find Tyler sitting at the kitchen counter eating the cupcakes I'd bought for myself with my own money. They were small vanilla cupcakes from Safeway that I'd hidden in the back of the fridge, planning to eat with my grandparents when they came over that weekend, since Mom still hadn't scheduled anything. "Tyler, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice shaking. He grinned with frosting on his face. "Oh, this was yours? Mom said I could have some." "Chill. It's just cupcakes." Just cupcakes. Just a birthday. Just me being erased one piece at a time. When I confronted Mom, she looked genuinely confused by my anger. "Allison, you're overreacting. Tyler needed a little pick-me-up after practice. Besides, you shouldn't be hiding food from the family." "It wasn't hidden," I said through gritted teeth. "It was mine. I paid for it." Her voice sharpened. "Watch your tone. We don't keep score in this family. You know how sensitive Tyler is right now. Don't make things harder on him." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and something else, clarity. For years, I'd been telling myself that if I just stayed quiet, if I just did the right thing, my parents would eventually notice me, appreciate me, treat me fairly. But the truth was staring me in the face. They weren't going to change. The next week was a blur of small indignities. Tyler forgot to do his chores, so I was told to be a team player and take out the trash for him. He spilled Mountain Dew on the living room carpet and blamed me, and Mom believed him without question. And when I got an acceptance letter from Portland State's honors program, Mom barely glanced at it before saying, "That's nice, dear," and then turning to ask Tyler how practice went. Each moment was like a drop of water wearing a hole into stone. My patience, my hope, my willingness to keep trying. All of it was eroding. Then came the breaking point. One Friday night, I came home from a late shift at Starbucks to find Tyler sitting on my bed, scrolling through my iPhone. "What are you doing?" I demanded, my voice louder than I meant it to be. He shrugged. "Relax. I just wanted to see if you had that photo editing app one wanted to download. You went through my phone without asking." "Big deal," he said, tossing it back onto my bed. "You have nothing to hide anyway." When I told Mom and Dad, they didn't punish him. They didn't even tell him not to do it again. Instead, Dad said Tyler was just curious. Maybe if you weren't so secretive, he wouldn't feel the need to snoop. I stood there stunned. They were blaming me for his invasion of my privacy. That night, I sat at my desk and made a list, not of chores or homework, but of everything that had happened over the last month. The cancelled birthday, the cupcakes, the constant favoritism, the invasion of my privacy. By the time I was done, the page was full, my handwriting pressed so hard into the paper that it left indents. Looking at that list, I felt oddly calm. It was like seeing everything laid out finally gave me permission to admit that this wasn't just normal family stuff. This was a pattern, one that wasn't going to stop as long as I stayed under their roof. I started keeping my door locked whenever I could. I began moving some of my things, my camera, my books, my laptop, into boxes and sliding them under my bed. Quietly, carefully, I was getting ready. I thought I was being careful, but Tyler has always been a snoop. 2 weeks after he'd gone through my phone, I came home one afternoon to find the front door wide open and voices carrying from inside. At first, I thought maybe we had company. But when I stepped into the living room, my heart dropped. My boxes, the ones I had carefully packed and slid under my bed, were sitting in the middle of the room, opened. My camera case was leaning against the couch with the zippers undone. My clothes were spilling out of the boxes, and my MacBook sat on the coffee table like some kind of exhibit. Tyler was sitting cross-legged on the floor, grinning smugly, and Mom and Dad were standing over everything with their arms crossed. "What is this?" Dad asked, gesturing to my things. I froze in the doorway. "My stuff," I said slowly, already feeling my pulse quicken. "Why are you hiding it under your bed?" Mom demanded, her voice sharp. "Are you planning to run away?" I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, Tyler piped up. "I told you she was being shady. I caught her packing last night." "You what?" I snapped, turning to him. He just smirked. "Yeah, I looked under your bed while you were in the shower. Pretty sneaky hiding spot, by the way." "You went through my room." My voice cracked, partly from anger, partly from the raw humiliation of having my privacy violated again. "Tyler was worried about you," Mom said like he was some kind of hero. "He thought you might be in trouble, and it turns out he was right. Allison, we need to talk about what's going on here." I clenched my jaw. "What's going on is that I'm tired of being treated like a guest in my own house." Dad's expression hardened. "Watch your tone. This is our house. If you have a problem with how things are run here, you can say so respectfully, or you can leave." For a moment, the whole room went silent. Even Tyler stopped smirking. I swallowed hard. "Maybe I will," I said, my voice low. Mom's eyes widened like I had just threatened to burn the house down. "Allison, don't be dramatic. You're 18. You don't understand how the world works. You wouldn't last a week out there on your own." That should have scared me. But instead, I felt a strange, almost dizzying calm. I didn't argue with them. I didn't yell. I just quietly gathered my things from the living room and carried them back upstairs. Tyler kept making little comments as I passed. Things like, "Hope you like sleeping in your car," and "Guess you don't care about family anymore." I ignored him, but each word felt like a push toward the edge of a cliff I'd been teetering on for years. The next day, I came home from school to find something that made my stomach drop even further. My laptop was gone. I tore apart my room looking for it, thinking maybe I'd just misplaced it, but it was nowhere. When I asked Mom, she said without a hint of guilt, "We took it away. We don't think it's healthy for you to be online so much right now. It's feeding this attitude you've had lately." "That laptop is mine," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I paid for it with my job." "Then consider this a cooling off period," Dad said from the kitchen table, sipping his coffee like we were discussing the weather. "You can have it back when we feel you've earned our trust again." I couldn't even speak. My throat felt tight, my ears were ringing. That laptop had everything on it: my schoolwork, my photography portfolio, even the scholarship essays I'd been working on for next semester. That night, I heard Tyler laughing in the hallway. He was talking on his phone to one of his friends, bragging. "Yeah, my parents totally busted her. She was planning to move out, but now they've got her on lockdown. She's not going anywhere." That was the moment something in me snapped. Not dramatically, more like the quiet snap of a thread that had been pulled too tight for too long. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I just sat up in bed and felt this cold, clear resolve settle over me. The next morning, I started my quiet revolution. I stopped doing the extra chores I usually handled without being asked. No more unloading the dishwasher before school, no more tidying the living room, no more taking out the trash when Tyler forgot. I ate breakfast and left my dishes in the sink like everyone else. Mom noticed first. "Allison, can you clean up the kitchen before you head out?" "I don't have time," I said flatly, grabbing my backpack. Her eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me." I'm running late. Tyler can do it. Tyler groaned from the couch. Why me? Because I'm not your maid, I said, and walked out the door before they could respond. That week, I started spending more time at work and less at home. I picked up extra shifts at Starbucks, stayed late to help with inventory, and told my manager I was available on weekends. At first, it was just to get out of the house. But then I realized what I was really doing, building an exit strategy. I started keeping track of every penny I earned. I researched apartments online at the library after school, using the computers there since my laptop was still confiscated. Studio apartments in southeast Portland weren't cheap, but they weren't impossible either. But even as I distanced myself, the situation at home kept deteriorating. One night, I came home after closing to find Tyler sitting at the kitchen table, using my confiscated laptop like it was his own. Hey, look who finally came home, he said, grinning. Mom said I could use this for homework since you don't need it right now. You what? I asked, my voice ice cold. He shrugged. You weren't using it. Don't worry, I didn't mess with your stuff. Well, not much. He laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. I walked straight past him and into my room, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. My heart was pounding so fast it felt like it might burst. That was the night I decided I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to make sure they understood exactly what it meant to lose me. The next few days, I started quietly dismantling my contributions to the household. I'd been paying for the Netflix subscription since sophomore year, cancelled. The Spotify family plan that everyone used, switched to my name only. The Amazon Prime account that Tyler used to order his protein powder and gaming accessories, payment method changed. I wasn't being vindictive. I was being practical. If they were so convinced I'd be back, they were about to get a taste of what life looked like without me there to quietly keep things running. I also started talking to my grandparents more. They lived in Beaverton, about 20 minutes away, and they'd always been quietly supportive. One afternoon, Grandma slipped me an envelope with $300 in it. Consider it a little cushion, she said softly. Just until you get settled. I felt my throat tighten. Thank you. I promise I won't waste it. She smiled. You've never wasted anything, Allison. That's why we know you're going to be okay. My manager at Starbucks had noticed my new dedication too. One evening after closing, she called me into the back office and said, You've been stepping up a lot lately. How would you feel about becoming a shift supervisor? I blinked. Are you serious? She nodded. You're reliable, you're good with customers, and the other baristas respect you. It comes with a raise, not huge, but enough to make a difference. I walked out of that office feeling 10 feet tall. It wasn't just about the money, though that helped. It was about someone recognizing my effort, my reliability, things my family had dismissed as just me being the easy kid. For once, someone saw me. By the end of that month, I had found a small studio apartment in southeast Portland, just 15 minutes from work. It wasn't much, a single room with a kitchenette and a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in, but it was mine. The landlord was an older woman named Dorothy who seemed kind but businesslike. When I handed her the deposit and first month's rent, my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from exhilaration. That night, I sat in my Honda Civic outside the apartment building, just staring at the key in my hand. This was it. My ticket out. At home, things were still tense. Tyler had started sulking more now that I wasn't reacting to his provocations. He'd hide my phone charger, take my hoodies, mess with my alarm clock, but I didn't give him the satisfaction of blowing up anymore. Every time he tried to get under my skin, I just thought about the key in my pocket and smiled to myself. Mom noticed the change too. One evening, as I was heading upstairs with a load of laundry, she stopped me at the bottom of the stairs. You've been very quiet lately, she said cautiously. I've been busy, I replied, keeping my tone even. She frowned. Busy with what? Work. School. My future. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, concern, maybe even a flicker of guilt. But she didn't press me further. The next few days felt almost like living a double life. At school and work, I was this calm, capable version of myself who was steadily building a future. At home, I was quiet, polite, and almost invisible, but only because I wanted to be. Every time I folded another shirt into a box or slid another bag into my car, I felt more in control. I started removing my presents from the house little by little. The photos of me on the refrigerator disappeared one by one. My shoes were no longer by the front door. My guitar was packed away. It was like I was slowly erasing myself from their world, preparing them for what was coming without them even realizing it. Then came the day I got my laptop back. It happened casually, almost anticlimactically. I came home from work to find it sitting on my bed with a sticky note that said, "We trust you again." I stared at it for a long time, then laughed, an actual laugh this time, not bitter or angry. I didn't need their permission anymore. I had already built a life outside of their control, and no one could take that from me. But just when I thought I could make my quiet exit, Tyler managed to push me over the edge one final time. 2 days before I planned to move out, I came home early from work and walked into the house just in time to overhear a conversation that changed everything. Mom and Dad were in the kitchen talking in low voices, and Tyler was sitting at the counter eating cereal. I was about to slip past and head upstairs when I caught my own name. "She's been pulling away for months," Mom was saying. "I don't understand what we did wrong." "You didn't do anything wrong," Dad replied, his tone dismissive. "She's just going through a phase. Once she sees how hard it is out there, she'll come crawling back. She doesn't realize how much she relies on us." Tyler snorted. "Yeah, good luck to her. She can't even keep her room clean. She'll be back in a week." I froze in the hallway. They weren't worried about losing me. They were waiting for me to fail. They thought my independence was some kind of teenage rebellion that would fizzle out when reality hit. They weren't scared to lose me. They were convinced I'd be back, begging for their help. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about getting out anymore. It was about proving them wrong, about making sure they understood that I could not only survive without them, but thrive. The morning I left, the house was still quiet when I woke up. Sunlight was just beginning to creep across my floor, lighting up the space that no longer felt like mine. The walls were bare, the shelves empty, the room almost echoing. For the first time, instead of sadness, I felt relief. Downstairs, I could hear the faint sounds of Mom starting her morning routine in the kitchen. Tyler was still asleep, and Dad hadn't left for work yet. My heart was beating fast, but I moved with a kind of calm focus. Before I left, I did the last few things on my mental checklist. I unplugged the Wi-Fi router and tucked it under my arm. It was in my name, after all, and I had every right to take it. Then I grabbed the spare house keys from the basket by the front door, took mine off the ring, and set it on the counter with a quiet click. I left a letter on the kitchen table, not angry or dramatic, just a clear, calm explanation of why I was leaving and what I needed. I told them I wasn't running away or punishing them. I was choosing myself for once. When I stepped outside, the early morning Portland air hit me like a shock. My car was packed full, boxes, bags, my camera equipment, even a small houseplant I'd been growing in my room. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and for a moment just sat there staring at the house. No big dramatic goodbye. No yelling or slamming doors. Just me, finally choosing to leave. By the time everyone woke up, I was already at my new apartment, unloading boxes and arranging my few belongings in the space that was entirely mine. The silence was different here, not tense or heavy, just peaceful. Around noon, my phone started buzzing. First Mom, "Allison, where are you? Why is your room empty?" Then Dad, "Call us right now. This is unacceptable." Then Tyler, "Dude, Mom is freaking out. Dad's yelling. What did you do?" I ignored all of them until I had finished setting up the internet in my apartment. Then, when I was finally sitting on my thrift couch with my laptop on my knees, I texted back a single line, "Check the letter." The real fallout began that weekend. I heard from my grandparents that Mom and Dad had been scrambling to figure out how to pay for the bills I'd been covering. The internet was shut off for a full day before they could get it switched into their names. Tyler had a complete meltdown when he couldn't stream his shows, which apparently set off another round of shouting matches. Part of me almost felt guilty hearing about the chaos. Almost. But then I remembered all the times I'd been told to just let it go, and the guilt faded. Meanwhile, my own life was finally taking shape. I bought furniture from thrift stores and Facebook Marketplace, a small dining table, a comfortable reading chair, a bookshelf for my growing collection. Each little addition made the apartment feel more like home. I started sleeping better than I had in months, waking up without that knot of dread in my stomach. At work, My promotion meant more responsibility and better pay. I could finally start saving for college without every dollar being eaten up by household expenses. Tyler tried calling me a few times, first to taunt me, "Bet you're miserable out there," then to complain, "Mom is making me do your chores now. Thanks a lot." I didn't respond to either. Instead, I focused on building my new life. I enrolled in night classes at Portland Community College to get ahead on my credits. I started taking photography seriously again, something I hadn't had time for when every spare moment was spent managing everyone else's needs. A month later, something happened that brought everything full circle. My parents called and asked if they could come over. Not to drag me home or lecture me about responsibility, but to apologize. They sat awkwardly on my small couch while I made coffee, and for the first time in years, they really listened when I spoke. Dad admitted they'd let Tyler run the household because it was easier than setting boundaries. Mom acknowledged that they'd taken my reliability for granted and forgotten that I had needs too. "We should have celebrated your birthday," Mom said, her voice thick. "We should have made you feel valued. I'm sorry." Tyler didn't come with them, but I heard through Grandma that he was finally facing consequences for his behavior. Without me there to blame for everything, Mom and Dad had started making him accountable for his own actions. Apparently, he hated it. The final moment of closure came on my 19th birthday. I didn't expect anything, but that morning, there was a knock on my apartment door. When I opened it, my parents were standing there, holding a small cake with 19 candles. "We'd like to try again," Mom said softly. "If you'll let us." I hesitated for a long moment before stepping aside and letting them in. We sat at my little table and they sang Happy Birthday off-key but genuine. As I blew out the candles, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about finally being seen, finally being heard. When they left, Mom hugged me tight and whispered, "Happy birthday, Allison. Thank you for not giving up on us." I closed the door, leaned against it for a moment, and smiled. They had learned what life was like without me, and they had come back ready to do better. And I had learned that my voice mattered, that my life could be my own. As I sat back down with the last slice of cake and picked up my camera to capture the moment, I thought to myself, this was the best birthday I'd ever had. Because this time, it was truly mine.